Good evening. My name is Dustin. I'm here to educate people about Asperger syndrome. Now, some of you out there may not know what it is, but it is a higher functioning form of autism. It mostly affects people's ability to interact, to read nonverbal communication, and oftentimes makes social situations awkward for the individual. Now, there is a stigma about autism. Many people who are uneducated about it all of a sudden start comparing the individual to Rain Man. Also, the media has done a fine job pigeonholing people on the spectrum as sociopaths and narcissists because there is a belief that we lack empathy. Well, I'm here to educate people and tell you that that's anything but true. The difference between us and sociopaths is that we are brutally honest and tell it like it is. In fact, people dislike the fact that we don't use our filters the way they think we should. And nonetheless, we're not very good at lying, but sometimes we do tell half truths. Sociopaths and narcissists, on the other hand, are very charming and manipulative and lie throughout their lives. They have no integrity, they have no empathy, they play off people's emotions, and they're usually great at playing off of other stuff. They prey on people that are strongly empathic, and they also are great at blowing sunshine. That's quite the opposite of somebody on the spectrum. Their ability, the sociopath's ability to charm people, thereby contradicts any possibility of somebody on the spectrum sharing the same characteristics as a narcissist or a sociopath. Now, that being said, I have stated a few things that have offended people on other threads. I'm actually wanting to give people some insight explaining what it's like to live abroad with my condition because most people I know of on the spectrum would never even leave the nest. They're oftentimes codependent on other people. Well, I left the entire country. All my life, people told me I would never amount to anything, that I would never leave the nest, that I was a man child, that I was an underachiever. Well, I'm here to prove them wrong. I already did that partially last year when I lived in Thailand. The first half of the year was difficult because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm an English teacher. I lived in a small city in Thailand called Korat. On the map, it says Nakhon Ratchasima, but everybody there calls it Korat. I struggled because of the language barrier, but also because I wasn't properly trained. It was out of the frying pan into the fire. In other words, baptism by fire. I was overwhelmed and overstimulated, and oftentimes I got riled up because the stimulants really got to me, and nonetheless, I didn't know what to do about it. The second half of the year, however, in Bangkok, I did much better because I had a great mentor. His name's Tim O'Gorman. He's a good man. I admire him to no end. Tim and my late coworker Frank both suspected I might have had ADHD because I was so hyper all the time. My other two roommates, my other two colleagues, not roommates, John and Dwayne thought that I was bipolar because of my mood swings. Everybody suspected something was up, but nobody knew what it was. Well, then when I revealed that I had Asperger's, it made perfect sense. I did very well there because I had a better support staff around me and we all worked with each other. We were like a family. We were one tight knit unit. The only complaints I heard about me were some of the Thai teachers said that I was a little hyper. And sometimes when I'm excited, I raise my voice. People think I'm angry or that I'm about to explode when actually I'm enthused. I'm revved up because I'm excited. I'm hyper engaged. My intense personality doesn't win everybody over at first, but once you get to know me, I'm quite all right. It reminds me of the America's Next Top Model season when Heather Kuzmic on there was on there. She has Asperger's. She had a hard time getting along with some of the other models, seeing how conceited and narcissistic they are. I'm not surprised. Many of them made her life a living hell, but she still carried on, and she still had steadfast determination. And that being said, Heather Kuzmic was actually the fan favorite because she was the most honest one of the bunch. The fans loved her. That's how it is with most people with Asperger's. We grow on you like a fungus. Now, that being said, there are two people that motivated me, fictional characters. The first one is Daredevil. Daredevil's blind. During the day, he's a brilliant lawyer named Matt Murdock. But even though he can't see, Daredevil uses his other senses. They're enhanced. He can hear people's heartbeats. He can smell their body odor. He can tell whether or not they're lying by how fast their hearts are beating. And he fights better at night because he can see like through sonar, like a bat. Even somebody with his circumstance was able to bring down Wilson Fisk, who's known as Kingpin, who had half the city of New York in his pocket. His inability to see didn't stop Daredevil from continuing on with the mission. My other inspiration was Walter White from Breaking Bad. So, now those of you who've seen me on Answerology are about to find out why I no longer use the name Dalgenstein, but now use Heisenberg. Well, that was Walt's pseudonym. Walter is an overqualified high school chemistry teacher who finds out that he has cancer one day. After his diagnosis, he meets up with his old student named Jesse Pinkman, who's a drug dealer. They become partners. Walt starts cooking crystal meth. And it's not only crystal meth, but it's the purest form of crystal meth that there is. Breaking Bad actually has a double entendre. It means cooking crystal meth, but also turning more evil. Walt turns more evil for each season. I'm not going to spoil it for the viewers, and I'm not saying that I'm evil by any stretch of the imagination. All I'm saying is that I expect to be somebody, which is exactly why those of you who watch me on my YouTube channels are going to see me grow my beard out thicker the more you see me evolve. I just shaved my head and my face because this is the beginning. Now, for those of you from Vietnam who were offended, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. What I said was that some of the vendors down on Boi Vien are a bit aggressive. When I said aggressive, I meant obnoxious and overbearing and pushy, not hostile and belligerent. Funny how words can be misconstrued over the internet, number one. And number two, I never once, in any way, shape, or form, tried to paint all people from Vietnam or expats as drunks and seedy people. That's a tourist attraction, though. What did you expect? A bunch of monks coming out and chanting stuff in Sanskrit? If anybody out there knows of any tourist attraction that has nightlife that doesn't have any questionable things going on there, you be sure to let me know. That leads me to my second point. Somebody got really offended and flew off the handle because I was comparing Boi Vien Road to Khao San Road in Bangkok. Since I've gotten here, I have been comparing Vietnam a lot to Thailand. That stands to reason because those are the two countries I've lived in when I was abroad. Now, if any of you other expats lived in Canada and lived in the United States, you would have done the same thing. So let's not kid ourselves. It's human nature. The part I think that somebody really got rattled about was when I mentioned that there were several massage parlors on Bui Vien Road, and there were hotels above them, which led me to believe that they had happy endings going on. Now, I'm sorry if that upsets everybody. I know nobody wants to hear about it. Vietnamese people get offended by that, but guess what? Thai people do. Why, I have no idea, but if it's any consolation, that kind of stuff goes on in my hometown in Austin, Texas. I'm sure it goes on in Houston. I know it goes on in Houston. That's where I'm from originally. If it goes on in Austin, it goes on in Houston. I first learned about this stuff when I lived in San Francisco for 2 years. They've got places like that on every street corner. It's a lucrative business. If it were up to me, that would be legal everywhere, but that's neither here nor there. The point I'm making is that you can't stop human nature. And therefore, it wasn't any personal attack on anybody else. So now that we've got that all cleared up, thank everybody for the time. I would like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this video, and I will post more to come. Thank you and have a good night.